Look at us, you, me on a Friday, no less.
How are you?
We'll find out in just a second.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Welcome to a special episode of No Vacancy Live. We are calling this the Look Who Looks Like They Just Rolled Out of Bed edition. He's Anthony Melchiori. I'm Glenn Hausman. So great to see you, man.
You look like you rolled out of the desert. I look like I am perfectly ready for a full day's worth of work in my office, in my suit. And I do have a 3-day beard, but I'm good.
Yeah, me too. So I was at the lodging conference this week, and the lodging conference is green here, so my green screen is kind of showing through, which is kind of cool. So I am fundamentally exhausted, and myself, along with the 2,539 other people that were at this event, are probably feeling the same thing as I am. One of the hardest weeks of the year, but Anthony, from our point of view, one of the most satisfying too. It's a great time that everybody gets together and has a good time catching up with each other after summer vacation, et cetera, et cetera. But before we get into that, Anthony, I think it's really important to remind everybody our love for Choice Hotels, particularly now since they picked up our friends over at Radisson Hotels America. Check out their Radisson legacy brands such as Radisson Blue, Radisson Red, Country Inn and Suites, and more. It's fun. It's getting fun to work with the Choice people a little bit more there, Anthony.
Absolutely. It's an exciting partnership. Yeah. So, my friend, for those people who don't know what the lodging conference is, explain. And then I want to hear all the stuff that came out of the lodging conference.
All right. So, as you all know out there, every industry's got their fair share of conferences, and the hotel industry in particular has got plenty of them. We've got them in all the different sectors, and one of the most exciting ones is, of course, the financial sector, Anthony. And as you know, that's where all the deals start to happen. That's where all the developers, the owners, the major brands selling their franchises, all of the suppliers that are in there trying to make those special relationships are all kind of hanging out with each other, trying to learn from each other, trying to do business from each other. And at this particular event at the JW Marriott Desert Springs in Phoenix, everybody's kind of chill, everybody's kind of laid back, and it's almost as if you could all just be there as friends and do business, as opposed to having to be focused on business and maybe hang out with a few friends.
And I would imagine that the bartender got to know you pretty well.
Listen, Jose and I, turns out we go back a whole long way, all the way back to him pouring me tequila. So that was pretty good.
Oh, well, can we talk about something that just came to my mind that I don't want to forget?
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to hear about the information from the conference.
Absolutely. I got plenty to talk about, dude.
My friend David Malili, who former CEO of Pegasus, and he's CEO of a new company that he'll announce at some point on the show. Right. He was in town, so I went to see him, and my daughter was playing volleyball. So I said, hey, we'll go to dinner, and then we'll go see my daughter play volleyball, and then we'll sit on the bench because she pulled her ACL. And then we'll go to the new Ritz-Carlton rooftop.
Nice.
Nomad rooftop.
Yep.
I have one thing to say.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know me, right?
I do know you, Anthony.
I am very hypercritical. It was nothing but perfection. From the waitress to the bartenders to the atmosphere, the money they put into this place. Right. The views were insane. It was the first 5 days it was open. And I just said, let me go over there, see if it's open. And it was exceptional. And the food menu they have. And it's just, so if anybody has a chance to go to the Ritz-Carlton Nomad rooftop, please go. It's insane.
Yeah, I love it. Dude, I got to get there with you one day, you know?
Oh, we got to I got to call the owner. Actually, I did. I emailed her. I'm looking for the picture to see if we can come and do one on property. I know we had her on a couple of months ago, and we were there. I was there pre-construction, but it's gorgeous, man. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to actually see it in person. But Anthony, speaking about all these new hotels opening, the lodging conference, what's really cool about that is because there are so many owners, operators, and developers at this thing, the major hotel brands usually use this as an opportunity to debut new brands, big announcements, new prototypes, that sort of thing. And I'll tell you, it was chock-a-block full of all of that kind of stuff. Particularly, we'll just start off with Choice Hotels International, because next week they're going to be opening their Everhome Suites in Corona, California. I'll actually be there shooting some content for them around that. So I'm excited to be seeing it in person. But they use this opportunity to announce that they've got Service Star Capital Management, one of the largest extended stay developers in the country. They are going to be developing 21 of these properties starting pretty much immediately. And they're already doing something like 50 of the Wood Spring Suites properties as well. So huge commitment by one company to this brand new brand.
Well, I think that's really what happened during COVID. They saw how great that product is and what it does to the bottom line. It all flows to the bottom line.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that there's so much confidence in that. And one of the things we've been talking about here is how this sector has really taken off. And of course, what Anthony just said, it really underscored that particular notion over there. In fact, Anthony, when we talked to our buddy Bruce Forder of Lodging Econometrics, he's found to say, I think something about 1/3 of all buildings coming out of the ground right now are part of that extended stay product line. So it's no surprise that we're starting to see now all of that splinter into different categories, from upper scale down to economy brands to other permutations of it. And that's kind of where we get to that alternative lodging segment that we've been seeing increase as well.
I'll use an example since I just had my high school reunion on Saturday, which was amazing. The extended stay was the nerd, and and the cool kids made fun of the nerd. Well, the extended stay is the cool kid, and all the cool kids are now the nerds.
Yeah, that is really true. And now you're at the apex point of this particular trend, because there's so many different types of these properties that are coming up right now. With the Everhome Suites one, that's more of an upscale kind of a version. And then you've got, like, for example, the Wood Spring Suites, which more is the economy type version. So all of the companies now, not only do they have like an extended stay entrant, but now they're starting to break those off into different types of categories to attract different types of travelers.
So can I digress?
Of course.
Listen, when you go to these conferences, there's a lot of, slapping on the back and saying, hey, this, that, and everybody's wonderful and great, and everybody's great to see each other. Yep. But there's an underlying stress of our industry right now with, all the things we've talked about.
Uh-huh.
All the panels you were on, was there any talk about some of those challenges and stress?
All right. So I only did one panel. I want to thank Harry Javer and Liz Wolf of the Lodging Conference for honoring me with being on stage during one of the general sessions. And Anthony, I had on our friend Sloan Dean, CEO of Remington, on that panel. We had on Larry Kokolik, who's the new CEO of Best Westerns Hotels and Resorts, who's going to be right here on this very show next week. We had on a Michael Lipson, who is with Access Point Financial. They are funding a lot of these deals over there. Neil Patel, the chairman of AHOA, and Liam Brown, the president of Marriott North America, who, as we are on air, just got an email saying, Glenn, yes, I will do the show again with you. So he'll be coming back to join us shortly as well. They, as well as a lot of the other folks that I spoke to on air and off air, catch a lot of the videos I did with a lot of the CEOs on my LinkedIn page. And they have a lot of mixed feelings, right, Anthony? Again, it's a story of the haves or have-nots. Depending on where you are, the type of property you have, you're doing great. Same thing with the opposite, right? And then when it comes to the financing side, it's kind of the same sort of a thing. So while the general atmosphere of, hey, everything is really wonderful, we're feeling pretty good, we're charging more than for hotel rooms than we ever have before, et cetera, it's that pockets of negativity that seem to create a have and have not story that was permeated throughout the event.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So did anything get resolved?
No, yeah, I fixed everything by asking really pointed questions. So yeah, no problem on that.
What was your biggest surprise from the conference, if there was one?
Actually, the biggest surprise I would say was the overall enthusiasm. I would have thought we're sitting in the middle of the conference and everybody's getting buzzed that interest rates just went up 0.75%. You'd think with the in prices of inflation, with the cost of money going up, because these people at this event are the ones that depend on the capital in order to build the properties. They don't want to pay more to get the same cash, particularly set against the backdrop of rising expenses. So that was a little bit of a problem.
Why were they surprised? Why were they happy?
Because they still think there's lots of opportunity. In fact, I spoke to one of our friends of the show, Peter Burke, who's got Capital Company, and he says owners are already baking that in to the equation. So they are well aware this is what's going to happen. The Fed has now said they're going to be doing interest rates the next 2 years until it gets like 4% or something crazy like that. So
hold on, something crazy like that. Yeah. It wasn't too long ago when it went to 4.9%. We all went, oh my God, it's only 4.9%. My mortgage, when I got my first mortgage, I think it was like 7%.
Yeah. Right. But seriously, we have been addicted to low cost capital for decades now. So decade and a half. For those too young to realize what happened in 2008 when we went into the financial meltdown and crisis, that's when the Fed started lowering rates all the way down to pretty much zero, right, Anthony? And then
before, my mother paid 18% interest on her mortgage.
Yes, absolutely. And that was in like the 1970s, right?
No, that was 80s. That was in the 80s.
I remember that the last time we had interest rates go up like this and inflation, it was all during like around the 1980s or in the early Carter administration. One of the reasons
even odd gas prices during inflation was the late 70s. Yeah. But I remember my mother getting an interest rate for her mortgage, and it was the early 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's absolutely incredible, though, how much it's come down, and it has driven the economy. But the interesting thing, Anthony, is then I'm talking to folks like Brad LeBlanc. He's a chief development officer with Best Western. I said to him, Brad, so what's the deal? Is new construction down? He definitely confirmed that, but he's saying it's being replaced with a lot of properties that are doing conversions. So everybody gets to feed on that for a while. The deal market is still happening, trading those properties. And you know better than anyone else, Anthony, and I'll let you take it away, why hotels get sold for less and then they put in money and like everybody's really a winner, right?
Well, yeah, it's not only putting in the money for you. Typically, if you allow your property to get to a point where you need a PIP, which is property improvement plan, and you're kind of getting the lowest rate in your market, you've done the next owner a favor. Because it's not about just the beds and it's not about the wallpaper. Is once we do that, we can immediately take over a property. Like in my company, RJ Hospitality, we can take over a company or business without any renovation and immediately see a spike in rate because we know revenue management. Once you put the beds in the wallpaper and once you make it and you renovate it properly, then you can really be a leader in your market. So those people do people like us a favor.
Yeah, they really do.
They don't see it because if they saw it, they wouldn't sell it.
Right. Yeah. So that was one whole track that we saw, and I'll bring some more news up in a minute that we discussed. But the other track, and I think it's equally as important to talk about, is that sense of technology. And as you know, Anthony, we're probably going to be attending the hotel show next summer at the Venetian, put on by the HLA and QuestX, June 27th, 28th, and 29th. And that whole show is the idea of bringing all of these different disciplines together. So we saw a lot more at this event, tech really coming into the mainstream and companies fundamentally discussing what their strategy is going to be going forward when it comes to implementing technology.
Can I make a prediction?
Yeah.
There won't be a front desk in 10 years.
You don't think so?
90% of the hotels in 5 years will be checking in, through an iPad. And then in 10 years, there won't be a front desk, except for the 5-star hotels. And those 5-star hotels will be more like concierge people checking you in and bringing you to your room. It's got to happen because it's, again, back before COVID,
right?
We didn't want to take people's jobs. Now people don't want the jobs.
Right. Let me just throw out a quick statistic. Apparently, for each job open, there's 2 people that could take those jobs.
Right, absolutely. Yep. And just a shout out to a person that I mentor just got a job at the Hard Rock Hotel in New York City as a front office.
Congratulations!
I'm very excited for him.
That's awesome.
And hopefully he'll have a great career in this industry. We we need, and he's excited. He's oh my God, like I'm at the Hard Rock front desk. Like he's excited. We need excited.
Oh, talking about excited kids, boy, did the lodging conference have a lot of excited kids. And by kids, because I'm an old guy now, I mean college students. Northern Arizona University. I don't know how Harry and Liz worked out the deal with them, but a lot of their students were working the event. And I got to speak to a lot of enthusiastic kids, including one who said he wants to do an internship with us, and he promises he's going to call. He was super enthusiastic, super excited, and it was fun to see a lot of kids that were young and wanting to be in our incredible business.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like even the other night when I was at the Ritz-Carlton, Nomad, and I'm sitting on top of the world, and the views are the best in the city. I mean, insane. You can see down Broadway at one angle. You can see the Empire State Building. You can see the financial district, and just the level of lighting and just the FF&E, and the drinks and the menus and the uniforms. I'm sitting there, and my friend's trying to talk to me, and I'm just having a moment. I'm just like, I can't talk to you. Like everything is being done right, and I'm freaking out.
Right.
Like it's like again, 57 years old, 35 years in this business.
Right.
And I'm sitting there like a 2-year-old. First time I've ever been out having a drink in New York City, and I've done it 100 times. But they level up the experience, and it is my go-to new place. That's for sure.
That is great, and that's a really cool thing about hospitality. Everybody keeps pushing the boundaries. They are able to adapt to the way our culture is shifting, create new products that people really like and follow the way they want to work and live as well.
And you know what I love? This is what I love.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously staying at the Ritz-Carlton Nomad is expensive. You can stay at a 3-star hotel and pay a couple $100, but still, if you're on vacation, go up to the Ritz-Carlton Nomad on the rooftop, and yeah, maybe you're going to pay $18 for a drink, but you're going to experience something that maybe you've never experienced before. So you still get that feeling of 5-star and that feeling of really living your best life, but you don't have to stay in a hotel, and you still get it. And, listen, everybody, if you're coming on vacation in New York, you're going to spend $100 on dinner. Might as well go upstairs, get a couple cocktails and a couple appetizers, spend $100 and get the best view and best environment I've seen in New York in a long time.
$18 for a cocktail. That's actually a pretty good deal. I'm seeing cocktails now, 22, 24, 28.
I was trying to be nice, man. I don't remember the price, but let's
all right. All right, fair enough. I appreciate that. So I did want to talk about the technology conversation that we were seeing there, Anthony. So there's definitely two different strategies that are emerging right now. And we've talked about this on the show. Why, guys? Because we are always ahead of all of these particular trends. In the general session just prior to the one that I hosted, Tyler Morse, he's the CEO of MCR Hotels. You might know the TWA Hotel. They also bought the Sheraton New York, and they bought something like 60 assets over the last couple of years. And his whole philosophy was, when everybody's freaking out and going right, we've got to go left in order to be more successful. But they're doing a strategy of purchasing different technologies to kind of put everything together in their own package in-house, because they're kind of frustrated by the whole notion of a hotel that they built had 65 different pieces of software. None of them communicated with each other, even in 2022. So you've got that strategy, and then I'll shop around and buy my own pieces of software.
Yeah, I think these kind of companies are getting so frustrated, and I won't name the brand, but I was just talking to a person that owns a lot of hotels or several hotels in this brand, and their technology is not up to par, and he's frustrated. And and listen, I've worked in several of these brands when I was developing hotels for people, and the technology is not there, and there's so many other technologies that come in and say, oh, we can interface. And then you go to do the interface and everything explodes.
Right.
And so it's very, very difficult. So if I was going to spend, like, say I'm going to open 60 hotels and I'm going to buy 60 hotels, I may decide to buy 50 and spend that, money for the 10 hotels on technology. And it's not going to come to me right away, but eventually will. I have a friend and a client of mine that owns a ski resort that built his own technology, proprietary technology that he sells to other ski resorts around the country. And it used to be, when I used to go to that ski resort before he owned it, you'd sit in line for 5 hours. Now you go there and you're on the snow in like literally 10 minutes. You have your skis, you have your boots, you have your poles, and you're on the gondola in 10 minutes because of technology. So a lot of these hotels and a lot of these companies have to buy technology companies and keep it within the family.
Right. And when you have the big scale of a company like MCR and some of the other big players out there, then that makes sense for that particular strategy. On the vendor side, you also see this, a lot of companies that are being formed with the hopes of being purchased by other companies in order to create a suite of products under one umbrella.
If you look at Amazon, I don't think Amazon wanted to be in the transportation business, but somewhere in the middle, they were like, you know what? Let's just do this ourselves. We can't get away from it. We have to be in the transportation business.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So I do want to go back to the part of the conversation we were talking about how extended stay is kind of changing. And we've talked about alternative accommodations. And of course, it has different meanings from glamping to more new styles of extended stay properties. And Waterwalk, which was the last product created by famed hotel developer and creative Jack DeBoer. You're familiar with Jack DeBoer, right, Anthony? Yeah, maybe give a minute on why he was so awesome.
Well, you tell him because I'm not that familiar.
Yeah, all right. He created brands, Residence Inn. You might know that type of brand.
He was really the first person to do it. He was the first person to really, like, he didn't do it in the bubble. He's like, I'm going to build it and sell it. Like, and he kept on doing it.
He created Candlewood, which then got bought by IHG. He created Value Place, which then was purchased by Choice before changing its name to the aforementioned Woodspring Suites. There are other brands that he invented as well. And before he passed away 2 years ago, he created a brand a few years before that called Waterwalk. And that is taking the idea of extended stay to the next level. Now, however, since his passing, the new president of the company, who Jack Korak, who I had a chance to speak to this week, was talking about this brand new next generation prototype that they created. I was very straightforward about why that first generation of product didn't work. Because that first generation product, where they had kind of like a hotel component and a residential type of component, the way it was structured, Anthony, it had to be on a 5-acre piece of property, and it was zoned as more as a residential thing. And all of the different rules and regulations and the costs went out of whack. That's not a direct quote. Don't quote me on that. But this next generation, they were able to classify it as an extended stay hotel type property. And they have a stay side, which is an extended stay kind of concept. And then the live side, which is an unfurnished apartment you could get for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever that might be. But the real new hook here that makes it a little bit different is they're really starting to get Uber residential. So they're creating a sense of community and a home-like atmosphere with 24/7 concierge service. They're doing a community hub, and you could get espresso stations, workspaces, board games, seating areas, outdoors. There's backyard space, customizable at living accommodations, flexible operating models, and it's much less money to build and all of that. So now, Anthony, you just had extended stay hotels. Now they're trying to create the whole notion of, well, if you're here for a month, you might as well feel at home, right?
100%. And it is absolutely the model that everybody's looking for. And like alternative hotel accommodations, I don't even like the name anymore because it just, everything is all coming together.
Well, so, they're coming with hybrid hotels too now, I think.
Yeah, but even hybrid, like I just don't even like the name. It's hotels, and I don't care what you call it. But at the end of the day, it's just an extension of, I don't know. It's like, a person that wears a tuxedo that also wears Bermuda shorts the next day is still a person, right? So a hotel is still a hotel. It just depends on what that guest wants or what that area is that hotel needs to be. So I think 5 years ago, it was appropriate to really make these distinctions. I think more and more, it's okay, how can we make money to the bottom line and give our guests what they want? And again, a lot of these things that we're discussing today, 5 years ago, were the third rail.
Right. Yeah.
So all bets are off.
Yeah, all bets are off, and it's opened up a whole slew of creativity. But the last piece of news that I wanted to talk to you about, Anthony, is Time to talk about space hotels again. You know, Hilton has been talking about space hotels since the 1960s. And now they've made a deal with Voyager Space, a global leader in space exploration. They're going to be the official hotel partner of Starlab, Voyager's planned free flying commercial space station. So Voyager is getting $160 million NASA funding for this space station. It's a space station that's set to replace the International Space Station currently flying right now. And Hilton is brought in to help create guest experience. CEO Chris Nassetta said, Hilton has been innovating to improve the guest experience and pioneering new destinations for travel for more than a century. We're thrilled to partner with Voyager to bring that expertise to Skylab. So they're going to try to help with how people are going to live up there. What do you think of that?
I think it's fantastic. I think Hilton being in the forefront of it is fantastic.
Yep.
But, I just being a hotel guy, we can't get our food and beverage operating system to connect to our property management system.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm glad that the brands are relying on the technology people to get us to space, because and we're just responsible for making sure they're comfortable. Because if we were having to get people to space, I think we'd have a problem.
Speaking of comfortable, shout out to the aforementioned JW Marriott Desert Ridge. I don't know what bed you have, but it was so gosh darn comfortable, and those pillows are incredible. I had if I wasn't in my 50s and didn't have to get up every 23 minutes, I would have had the greatest night's sleep of my life. It was awesome.
Well, you know what it's called? It's called Glenn had 5 drinks in him and he slept like a baby.
Actually, I hate to disappoint, but the first big night, it was so dang hot, I could only have two drinks before drinking a couple of bottles of water.
What did you say again? Can you say that again?
I said jugs of water is what I said.
Is that what you said?
I only had one joint, not two. So
Freudian slip.
Yeah, we call that a Glenian slip when it's that kind of a mistake.
We only had 2 joints.
Oh yeah. All right, Anthony. I'm so tired today. So is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap it up for the weekend? My boys are coming home from college for Rosh Hashanah, and I'm excited about that. I got one here already.
Oh, wow. And how is their experience so far in school?
It seems to be going really, really well. I can't wait to find out more about it. But first reports from my son Ben last night, really, really positive. And my son Jake made the train, so he's on his way home from Lancaster. So I'm excited about that. It's
crazy how they can actually feed and shower themselves, right?
Dude, let me tell you, I'm so proud of them for this. And at 18, they should be able to do this. Obviously, they can. But I'm pretty proud of them for being able to figure out how to get from Massachusetts to the train station, from the train station to the ferry, from the ferry to to Port Jeff. So yeah, on that.
As my kids grow, and they're doing things that I was like, wow, like they're a lot more mature and doing things that I didn't really know how to do. I still get lost, south of 23rd Street. So.
It's so true, because that's where the grid stops everybody in New York pretty much, and it gets confusing with roads going in different directions. Little known fact, the reason why Dwayne Reed is called Dwayne Reed is because of Dwayne Street and Reed Street.
I did not know that.
And that's where the first one was located. Yeah. So I guess they weren't too creative in naming stuff.
Wow, I didn't know that. But since we're putting out history, where did George Washington take his first oath of office?
Was that on the steps of City Hall in New York?
1 Wall Street.
1 Wall Street. Yes, that's what it was. Yeah, that's awesome.
He probably got lost down there too.
That was much smaller. Subway didn't go as far in the 1700s, so it wasn't that big of a deal.
All right. So one thing, my friend, from the conference, that made you laugh.
One thing that made me laugh.
Could have been a joke on when somebody was on the panel, because I know those panels are very funny. Could be when you have a cocktail. Could be who made you laugh or what made you laugh.
Our friend Rob Paleshi of G6 Hotels on Rachel Humphrey's panel, which immediately preceded the one that I did, so I only heard some of it in the background. they're saying, what's one thing that you like or confused about? And he went on his whole thing about, he's like, the cloud. I'm not sure what the cloud is. People keep telling me what the cloud, but it was very, very funny. I was panicking because I had to go up on stage in 3 minutes, but he was definitely making the entire room laugh.
Most people still know what the cloud is.
And then the last night,